Hey everybody, it's Gypsy, and welcome to my multi-dimensional life. And today I thought I would talk about um, things that, like signs you receive, things that happen right before um, you die. Um, Now, sometimes these are hallucinations, and sometimes they're real. Okay, um, I see and hear spirits a lot. And I also volunteered for hospice, and we had to go through very lengthy, detailed, and rigorous training before we could start working for them. And we did talk about this topic also. So it's very interesting, especially, all right, like both my grandfather and my mother had dementia. So dementia will also bring on hallucinations. But you have to um, understand not all of them are hallucinations. Okay, now I remember when my dad was dying, anyways, he was in his hospital bed and he kept looking up at the corner of the room. My dad was never a big talker, so he wasn't, at this point, he was talking even less. And I remember asking him, Dad, what do you see up there? But he didn't answer me. You couldn't? He's telling me he couldn't. He was too weak to speak. Anyways, kept looking up there. So I didn't get my answer until after he died. Um, he told me that my grandpa, his dad, and his brother, who died at 6 months, and the rest of the family who had already crossed over, were there talking to him. And, they come to, you know, take him, take him home, He doesn't really go into too much about that. Um, but that's what I remember with my dad. I also remember, now this really has nothing to do with this topic, but my mom and I saw this. At the moment of my father's death, the room began to all of a sudden just glow in this golden color. Now it was 7:20 in the evening on July 29th. So yes, the sun was setting, but to me, even though the sun was setting at that time, yeah, and the window was facing north, not west. Um, there was still a lot of significance, spiritual significance to me and my mom that the room began to glow at the moment he left. Um, so yeah, that was pretty interesting. But with my mother, now usually, I'll listen to a couple different hospice nurses talk about this kind of stuff on videos. They usually say it's usually taking place within like the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks of life. With my mom, it was different. Now, the only time I ever remember my mother in her younger years saying that she saw a spiritual entity was, she had been about 55, and it was right before my dad's um, diagnosis of cancer. And she says they were sleeping, and my mom woke up and saw this very large angel standing next to them. And the angel told my mother, don't worry, everything is going to be okay. And that was the only time I remember her talking about that. But my mom was very intuitive. She had other psychic gifts. I don't ever remember her talking or anything like that about spirits seeing them. But she's just like, she and I had a strong, like, I had like soul connection. Not that I was closer to her than any of her other children. It was more of it was definitely a spiritual thing where we could, I don't know, like kind of read each other's feelings and stuff like that. So my mom was psychic in that way. But I would say, I don't know, maybe the last 2, 3 years of her life, she started to see family members who have crossed over already. It's always either Rhiannon or Persephone get in the way of my videos. So she did have some hallucinations too. So if they were really crazy, like she was talking about my aunt who had died, she bought a house and didn't tell my mom, and they, like, Miss Rhiannon, please. Um, and so my mom was mad. Was like, no, Aunt Charlotte did not buy a house. She died. Do you remember that? Oh yeah. So it was stuff like that. But there were also things that really happened with her seeing, um, you know, or hearing those who have already left. So one of the things is, and I think this happened in the assisted living apartment, she was not supposed to go and take a bath or a shower by herself. She had broken her hip. She was fall risk. Well, I guess one morning she decided she was going to go get into the tub. And all of a sudden she hears a voice. It was my dad's. Jan, you know you're not supposed to be taking a bath by yourself. Somebody has to be here to help you. So that was one of the first things I think I heard about. Um, she, yeah, my one aunt came in and out a lot, and I think that's why my mom was talking about her so much. But during this one time, my sister tells me that um, our mother was talking about how Aunt Charlotte came to visit her, and mom wanted to offer her coffee, but our aunt said that she no longer drinks coffee. We come from a family of big coffee drinkers. And so this one, I decided to ask my aunt, who's on the other side. I said, did this really happen? And she says, yes. She said, I check on your mom a lot. And I went in the morning this one time, and she was making coffee or something. She was having coffee, and she asked my aunt if she wanted coffee. And my aunt said, Jan, you know I can't drink coffee anymore. You should try to remind her that she's dead. So, anyways, I was telling my younger son, this is my son who's still alive, this story, and my son starts cracking up, and he goes, "You know what Aunt Charlotte should have told her?" And I said, "What?" Jan, you know I can't drink coffee these days. It goes right through me. I just couldn't, couldn't stop laughing. Um, so let's see. Yeah. Oh, when she was like in physical therapy and stuff, my dad, not that he would be singing, but he would play music for her. And she would tell her physical therapist, "Do you hear that guy singing?" And the physical therapist said, "No, I don't hear anybody." And I wish I could do it like my mother, but she goes, "Oh yes, yes you do." I can't do it the way she does. But yeah, um, so there was things like that that happened often, where she would hear this music during physical therapy, and yeah, my dad saying he would do that to make her feel better. Um, Now towards like the last year, she started talking about my grandmother coming to see her. Also, she would talk about people would come and talk to her about her leaving soon. Now, this is very common. I'm sure it was her spirit guides or whatever. Um, she says people are talking to me that I'm leaving. I'm going home. And she, of course, wanted to go home. She didn't want to be in it. She was in a nursing home at this point, and I don't blame her. If I end up in one, I hope that doesn't happen for mine and my son and daughter-in-law's sake. Um, So, she was a little confused. And I knew what was happening, okay? And this was like the summer before. And it was right after she had like a spurt of energy. And she was going to all the activities at the beginning of summer. And, it was like every time I'd go to see her, which was a lot because I lived like 5 minutes away right up the road. So, anyways, yeah, I knew what was going on because I know, from my hospice training, and I've heard so many people talk about this. Spiritual beings will come to prepare you. And so that was what was going on with my mom. Her spirit guides, angels, whatever, were talking to her, trying to explain to her what was about to happen. And, with dementia and everything, she was a little confused that she thought she was going home, um, the home she had. And that wasn't the case. So I guess they had, she's saying they had to keep coming back to re-explain, but she would tell us this, oh, they're telling me I'm going home. And I knew what was going on. So this one time, it's very pretty nursing home, very like almost Victorian style with the pretty wallpaper. And she's looking at it and she goes, when I leave here, I'm really going to miss this wallpaper. And I said, well, Mom, I said, it's really not a problem because if you do end up missing the wallpaper, you can pop it. And I think I worded it that way to kind of like make sure she, get her back on track to what's really going on. I said, you could pop in here anytime you want and see the wallpaper. I thought that was funny. I'm sorry, my allergies or something is bothering me today. So that was a funny one. Yeah, I have the most with my mother because she was having so many spiritual spiritual things happening the last couple of years of her life, especially the summer before, and she died December 8th. Okay. So there was one time I came to visit her and I went and got us dinner and we were sitting in one of they're kind of like living rooms and we're eating, we're talking, and she told me that my grandmother was coming to see her a lot. And she said, and she like will get really close to my face. Um, and my grandmother was trying to explain to her, Janice, it's time for you to come home. And she meant our real home, in the spirit realm. And so my grandmother took her on one of my grandmother's famous field trips that she likes to do, whether you're dying or not. If you're having an issue, she's going to come take you on a field trip. And if you have the ability to remember what it is you do during the night, like me, you remember Grandma took you on a field trip, and the first thing she does, holds out her hand so you could take her hand, and she says, come on, I want to show you something. She did that to my mother. She did that to me, but not dying. This was years ago. For my mom, it was to help her understand what was going on. And so I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm trying to see if my mom has any other things. But there's things like that. When your loved one who is preparing to die and cross over starts saying these things, just, don't discount them. Just listen, yes. Many of them are going to be your deceased family members coming to talk to the person, to prepare them. And they are, during the end, there with them, just surrounding them. And then they're going to have their spirit guides, angels, what have you, come and talk to your loved one to prepare them for what's about to happen. Um, I actually find it, yes, quite lovely. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think This is why, I mean, we do not know what they're truly experiencing. So don't, oh, that's not happening or whatever. When it's something really outlandish, like a couple of the things my mom said, okay, that one cannot be possible because that person died. She no longer needs a house or whatever it is. Now, that one story with the coffee, that one you could tell automatically was not an hallucination because the first thing my aunt said to my mother, you know, I no longer drink coffee. So she was trying to subtly remind my mother that my aunt had died. And my mom did, now that I think about it, before this incident, my mom was having a lot of hallucinations that were really off the wall, um, about my aunt, maybe another family member or two that really didn't make any sense at all. Could not be possible. So you know that one's a hallucination. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing that that happens. Um, that you're surrounded by so much. And the only reason I could think my mother started so early was because uh, she's she was just very intuitive and psychically more open than maybe most people. I don't know. But I will leave you with that. Blessed be and make it a joyful one.